Okay, so with geometry, we're going to need some building blocks. We'll get to those eventually, but first, I would like to know, why my clicker's not working? There we go. What are the similarities and differences between those two things? Sophia, you start. You want to do similarities or differences? Differences, go. Good, they're two different animals. What else? Beautiful. Keep going.
The one on the left has an invisible tail, but on the right you can't see.
Good. Keep going.
The one on the right has like a stripe pattern on the fur and on the muzzle.
Good. What else?
The one on the left you can see the tongue of the dog, and on the right you can't.
Good. What?
The right, there's the ground that has a reflection.
Good. Okay, so now that didn't take long, but I expected more discussion about the fact that one's a dog and one's a cat. So Natalie, hold on, I'll come back to mine soon. Tell me what they have in common. What are the similarities?
They're both animals.
Good. What else?
They both have eyes.
Good. And 2 ears and 4 legs and a tail and then a liver and all that other stuff. Okay, yeah, so we can agree that they have the same general makeup. What else?
They both walk on 4 legs.
Great, keep going.
They eat food.
They do. Excellent.
They have fur.
Good. Anything else? No? Okay, so everything she addressed talked about similarities between dogs and cats. However, when we started with the differences, they started getting into things like the shadow or the reflection of the cat, or the fact that you can see the dog's tongue but you can't see the cat's tongue. And those are kind of the in-depth things that we want to start talking about. Okay, so similarities and differences. Are we good? And we can continue on with all kinds of other things. What about these two? What do these two things have in common, and what do they have that are different? Nikolai?
They both have 4 legs.
They both have 4 legs. Excellent. Glenn?
The picture on the left, it's a dog who lives, and on the right, it's here.
But, yes, but at one point, wasn't that chair alive? Because it looks like a wood chair. But you're just saying now, the dog is alive and the chair is not.
Yes.
Okay? What else? Drew?
They're both by the same height.
They appear to be about the same height. Good. What else? Similarity or differences, I don't care.
They're different colors.
Yes, but also the same color. They're both brown, aren't they?
Yeah, but a different shade.
That's true. Right, so that's what I'm saying, the similarity. And one thing we noticed interesting last period is look at the front monitor, that TV, and that TV. You can see the shadow of the chair clearly, but for some reason on those two and that one, it's like all yellow. It's kind of weird. Okay. Giselle, what else you got for me?
They're both like made of different materials, I guess.
So is that a similarity or a difference?
Difference.
Difference. One's made of wood, one's made of dog parts.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What else?
One has like fur and one doesn't, so like one's like softer than the other, I guess.
Good. Anything else?
They both don't move right now in the picture.
Because they're pictures.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
old for money.
Excellent. Now we're starting to think outside the box.
Ooh, I have another one.
Oh, I can't wait. Go ahead.
They could be owned for, a family could own them. Like, have,
Good. An individual could own them
yeah,
or have them.
yeah.
Right. Or they could not be owned. Could be a wild dog in a chair just hanging out in the park. Because I don't know, whatever. Olivia, did you raise your hand?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay. How about they both have backs? Yeah. Nice. I did that myself. Go ahead.
One can be used for food and the other one can't.
Okay, so I like the idea that you phrase it as one can be used for food, because if you said, well, you can eat one of them, that would be a false statement, because you could conceivably eat the chair, right?
Yeah.
I assume you're referring to the dog as food.
Yeah.
Yes, the dog could be used as food. You would gain no substance from eating a chair. Okay, good? Go ahead.
You can both sit on them.
Yes, you could sit on a dog.
That wouldn't be healthy for it.
Well, it depends on how big. If I sat on the dog, it would be a lot less healthy for the dog than if Abby sat on the dog. Why'd you volunteer to sit on the dog? Did you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, one of them has a limited timeline, the other one can, like, just.
I didn't hear what you said. One has what?
One has, like, a limited timeline, so it's, like, not gonna be there forever, the other one can just.
Yeah, theoretically, that chair could sit in the park for hundreds of years. So,
The dog can move on its own, but a chair can't.
good,
One grows, one doesn't.
correct, good. Well, to a certain point, at some point, the dog's gonna stop growing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The dog can breathe, but the chair can't.
Breathe or breed?
Breathe.
Well, both actually. Yeah, you don't see chairs reproducing in the wild. Okay. Oh,
The dog could eat the chair, but the chair can't eat the dog.
A dog could.
very valid. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Anything else? Okay.
The dog has a tail and the chair doesn't.
And you could go ears, eyes,
Lips.
Yeah.
lungs.
They have different shapes.
That is true. Good. That'll become relevant for us later in geometry.
Chair.
Okay, so
Chair shape. What's the formula for the surface area?
what you're going to end up doing in this class is more work than you're probably comfortable with. By that I mean you're going to be writing definitions of things that you already know, but we're going to have to write very accurate definitions. Okay, so for instance, in your notes, please write a definition for that. And I'm going to talk while you're writing. That definition should be as accurately bleh. Let me try that again. That definition should be as accurate as possible, but shouldn't include a bunch of extraneous information. Okay? When you get your definition done, what I'd like you to do is share with your group thinking about one particular thing. I lied, two particular things. Number one, does their definition accurately describe that? And number two, are there things that the definition describes that aren't that? Does that make sense? So if they've written a definition for a dog, can other things also fit into the definition? Because if so, it's not a very good definition. All right, so Sheriff.
A living thing.
A dog. living animal.
A dog is a
I put a living organism. But the most
Yeah, I don't think.
Does that work? Can cats be kept as pets?
But it has
Yeah.
to be that though.
But if I'm trying to define a dog, I need to have it, so it's only gonna be a dog.
Oh, so you say dog.
See what I'm saying?
Four-legged living things that could be a pet in most plants.
Well, what better describes something than the word dog? Dog describes that. So describe the dog, dog. That's the best word for it. Dog.
What if something was
what would alligator?
1/8
What?
See something that I'm thinking of.
That's
Very
not a
common,
dog.
especially in the
It's an
southern
eighth
states.
of a dog. It's not a dog.
What do you got in here?
What is it, a family pet?
Okay, so, we're gonna need a little revision here.
Hybrid.
Couple things I saw. An animal with 4 legs. Does that work?
No.
It's not very specific.
No, in fact, it doesn't work because it includes a bunch of other things. Chameleons, okay, cats, all kinds of other things. What were some of the other ones I saw? A living animal. Same reason as a 4-legged animal doesn't work. So it's got to be specific enough that it accurately describes that, but also eliminates things that it's not. So what things are accurate about a dog that aren't accurate for other animals? So somebody said, that you just said man's best friend? Yeah, so I'm sure you've heard that term before. Dogs are commonly known as man's best friend. There's no other animal that's referred to as man's best friend. Somebody had their hand up. Are you?
Yeah,
What'd you say?
I forgot.
Good one. Somebody else said domesticated animal, which is good, except we have other things that are domesticated animals. Like cats, cow, goldfish. Oh,
I had domesticated canine.
that works. I mean, because canine would not be enough because the canines include coyotes and wolves,
Yeah, but they don't look.
but they're not normally domesticated. Okay. And again, the other thing is when we're writing these definitions, we're speaking in generalities. So we can assume that dogs have 4 legs. Is there a 3-legged dog out there? Yes, somewhere there is a 3-legged dog hobbling around. You might have one at home. Who
I've
knows?
seen a two-legged dog.
But we're going to assume that 4 legs taking into account that. What about that? Did your definition just define a dog, or did you make a distinction between a dog and a golden retriever? Did you define a golden retriever, or did you define a dog? And if you just defined a dog, then it should take both of those into account. If you defined a golden retriever, then it should exclude the chihuahua on the right-hand side. It depends on what you're defining. Okay, so what we're going to do is eventually start writing definitions. But before we do that, before we can start building geometric definitions, we're going to need to talk about 3 terms that don't really have definitions. They'll have descriptions, but not an accurate definition. There are a number of words in our language that fit into that category. You know what the word is, you know what it does, but you really don't have an accurate definition of that. One example would be the word time. Okay, you all know what time is. I'm referring to not the clock thing, not the spice thing. T-I-M-E. You understand what it does, you know how it works, you know how to tell time, but actually writing a definition for the word time is fairly difficult. We have 3 in geometry. The first one is a point. What is a point? Alec, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you go to the board, grab the pen there,
This one.
and then see the, down at the bottom, the little pen there? Click on that. Now draw a point for me.
Just like this. Oh,
Yeah, it's a little tricky. You gotta get used to it.
where's like the undo button?
Don't worry about it. You're fine. Just do it somewhere else. Beautiful. Let's give it up for Alan. Do we all agree that that's a point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody want to counter that argument? It's a dot, not a point. Okay, so then what's the difference between a dot and a point? It's called different things? All right. What if I drew my point like that? Is that a point? We know it's bigger, yes, very good. But is it still a point?
Yeah.
It is, yes? How many people think yes, it's still a point? Awesome. I don't have the time, but we'll pretend that's colored in. Is that a point?
Yes.
Yes. Yes? Now you're giving second, so you're saying no, Roman? You're saying yes, it's not a point, or no, it's not a point?
It's a big dot.
It's a circle.
It's a big dot. Well, it's supposed to be shaded. So you're all convinced that that's a point.
Correct. Yeah.
Most of you were convinced that's a point.
Yeah.
Things got a little shaky with that guy. So why not this one and why these? It's too big? Okay. So when does it stop being too big?
When the graph gets smaller.
When the what?
Graph gets smaller.
Grandma.
When the what? When the point takes up more than 1 point, but that's still just 1 point.
What if you have a
What's 2
giant
points?
graph?
It takes up more than
But what if you have a giant graph? Then it's still only 1 point.
something with a specific location.
Wouldn't the point be a very specific, wouldn't the point be a very specific, like, place, and the dot that you drew on top of it is just marking the point?
Okay, so how specific?
You can go to, like, infinite amount of specifics, so it's just like,
So you're saying this classroom is not a specific enough location?
well, you'd
It
have
has coordinates.
you can go, like, as general as you want, really, but the dot on top of the point is just marking the point. It's not really the actual point. It's kind of like, it's weird. Yeah. So, like, the point is the place, but the dot is marking the place.
Wait, but it could be a point, that's a circle, because it's like a sharp object like that, right?
All right, I'm gonna, okay, now things are gonna get weird. What is this?
A
Dog.
No,
Golden.
no,
A
Animal.
picture.
No.
Mammal. A picture.
it's a picture.
Really?
Is that a dog?
Yeah.
No.
It's
A picture of a dog. I'm using that to represent a dog. Okay? That's a picture of a cat. It's used to represent a cat. It would be nice if I had a dog and a cat. That would be a great teaching model, but we don't have one. So if you take that idea and you extend it into what Nicole was saying with the dots, go through that again.
So a point is like a specific location. The dot is on top of the point to show where it is. It's like putting a picture of a dog to signify a dog. It's not actually the dog. It's just showing where it is or what it is.
Is that okay with everybody?
I didn't understand.
She'll explain it again. Wait, hold on, let me ask some questions though. How specific of a location are you talking about?
Well, theoretically, you could go like to an infinite amount specific, but it really depends on like how long you're willing to spend on
Where do
it.
you think we're gonna go?
To an
Oh, no.
infinite amount of specific.
So, she's talking about a location that is so specific we can't represent it. In other words, I couldn't get a pencil sharp enough to mark exactly where she's talking about. Just like I couldn't actually get a golden retriever, so I've used a picture of a golden retriever.
Smart.
So because that point is so specific, we use dots to represent the location that we're talking about. Okay. That last part is important. Has no shape nor size. It's so specific, there's nothing to measure there. Question?
So was that big giant dot thing a point? Because you didn't like really say if it was or not.
According to this, no.
Okay.
It was a dot. Big honking dot, but a dot nonetheless. Okay, so we get to that. We had that discussion already. We represent it with a dot. Okay, so here's my picture of a point. That red dot down at the bottom is not a point. It's not specific enough. But we use a dot to represent the point. And this is going to get really bizarre because now we start talking about infinity, and the human mind is not designed very well to deal with infinity. And some of you can do better than others. It's okay. You're not really meant to do that. For instance, let's suppose I have a cup. Here, I have a cup right here. How many points would fit in this cup?
Infinite amount.
Infinite. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Good. Suppose I fill the room with points. Cups filled with points. In a room filled with points. How many points in the room?
It's the same amount.
So you're saying that the same amount that's in this cup is the same that's in the room?
Yes.
Yes, because it's infinite.
But the cup's inside the room,
But infinite
Filled with
infinite.
points.
Yes.
It's not
It's the same.
Infinite is equal to infinite. If they have
It's the same
no,
value.
if they have no size, then it can be infinite amount.
It has a size.
It's infinite.
I
It's
don't know.
infinite and infinite, so it's equal.
One infinite isn't bigger than two. Drain all the dots. What? Boy. Stop.
Alright. So that, whether that makes sense or not, it's not really designed to make sense because, like I said, we're not very good with infinity. By the way, infinity is not a value, it's not a number, it's a concept. So that whole argument becomes moot when you understand that. Okay, if it has no shape or size, how many dimensions does it have?
Infinity.
Grace, how many dimensions do you have? 3. Length, width, and height. Right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. How many dimensions does that point have? Beautiful. None, because there's nothing to measure there. You okay with that?
Which one are we talking about?
The point.
You can measure like this.
Ow.
That's a dot. I'm talking about a point. Okay. Sometimes it helps if people picture the points as like golf balls. And I take those golf balls and I start lining them up. Eventually it'll make a shape. What shapes can you make from those golf balls?
Triangle.
Triangle would be one.
Square.
Square,
Rectangle.
rectangle.
A line.
Anything you want. A moose?
Yes.
Yeah, they
Okay.
wouldn't like stay
You can make a
together.
joke out of it.
Triangular prism.
Those are you using all the big fancy terms. If we line them up, we get a line. And there's a picture of one. A common phrase that you hear all the time is, oh yeah, I travel there in a straight line. In this class, that no longer makes sense. All lines are straight. As soon as it starts to curve, it's no longer a line. So for us, it looks like that. 2 ways to name it. One way would be to use the lowercase letter there, M. That's the line M. Or to pick 2 points on that line, give them special names, and name it using the 2 points. So that would be the line BC or the line CB. Gee, what do the arrowheads mean?
It's infinite.
Yeah, goes on forever and ever and ever. That's not a line, that's a representation of a line. Because we can't draw something that goes on forever and ever and ever. Grace, back to you. How many dimensions does that line have?
None.
skipped over the one answer that we needed. 1, correct. Length, that's it. Okay. Even though the representation appears to have some width, we're ignoring that. It has 1 dimension. Took a 0-dimension object, stretched it into 1 dimension. Take the 1-dimensional object and stretch it in another direction. We get a 2-dimensional object, also known as a plane.
If we graph the line of the quiz, we didn't draw anything, is that right? Because you can't like represent it.
Oh, that would be sneaky. Just leave it blank and say use an infinitely sharp pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would laugh and then give you the 0.
Can you go back a second, please?
Is that okay? Is that far enough? Go back more.
One more, like, put it blind.
Is that good?
The slide.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Plane. Looks like that. The easiest thing, in my opinion, is to think of a plane as like an infinitely large piece of paper that goes on and on and on and on. Why is it slanted like that? Because it's kind of a 3-dimensional looking thing. You could name it either using a script letter, like in the corner there, that's a K, or what's easier is to just use 3 points on that plane. And there are tons of examples of this in everyday life. Like, for instance, all of your iPads are in the same plane of your desktop. The wheels of your chairs are in the same plane as the floor. Now they are. Okay, just so you know, you don't have to write down everything on every slide, right? Just wanted to make sure. Okay, good. We won't do a lot with planes until second semester. That's more 3-dimensional stuff. We're going to deal mainly in 2 dimensions, flat surfaces. Okay, so those are our 3 building blocks, which are undefined. We've described them, but we don't have distinct definitions. And everything that we do from this point on can be built with those 3 things: points, lines, and planes. Now normally, when I give you definitions, I would have you write your own definitions, but today I'm going to besiege you with a couple definitions because they're pretty straightforward, and we want to get through this. So what does the word collinear mean? What's the prefix co mean?
Together.
Together. What's linear mean?
Like line.
Line. So what does collinear mean?
Together line.
Together line. Okay, which is good. Could you clean that up a little
Like-
bit?
2 lines that are like together on the same plane.
No, not 2 lines.
A line that's together on the same plane.
How, you just pluralize something that was singular. How can a line be together with?
A line that is on the same plane. What? I have no idea what I'm saying.
I understand. Collinear doesn't necessarily deal with lines as much as it deals with points. So if you think about points being collinear, what does that mean?
They're on the same line.
What's they?
Joe.
Yeah, 2 or more points on the same line. Okay, let's extend this a little bit. If that's collinear, what does non-collinear mean?
They're not.
They're not on the same line. It negates it. What's coplanar mean?
2 points that are on the same plane.
Yep. And non-coplanar?
2 points that
Not on the same plane. Your chairs and a chair in Mr. Sebastian's class are non-coplanar. Your chair and a chair in room 334 are coplanar. They're on the same plane of the floor. Okay, let's draw some pictures. Here we go. Sketch that in your notes. Good. I have, well, let's do the second one next. Okay, so further down, do that, please. Sketch that. Alright. Now, my pictures are not the only answers because I saw some variations, but here's my first one. That plane is the that yellow looking thing. I had a lot of people draw something like this and then they put their point over here which is fine because that's a plane, it goes on forever. Some people had to pass through that edge over there, which again is fine because it goes on forever. Why is part of my line shaded, Maggie? Or sorry, not shaded, dashed. Say again, I'm sorry. Beautiful. It's below the plane, you can't see it. If you think about that as being a piece of paper and I jammed a pencil through it, you wouldn't be able to see part of the pencil because it would be hidden behind that. And you represent that by using a dashed line. Notice my points X and Y are on the line. They're just not the letters sitting next to the line. I actually highlighted some points. And then, whoops. And then that point where the line passes through the plane is commonly called a foot. I don't know why. And then the second one, two lines intersecting at the point Q. A couple things to be aware of there is that I have arrowheads on that because they're lines and they go on forever. They're labeled M and N, and then it's a capital Q to label the point, lowercase letters to label the lines. Okay? A lot of information thrown at you today, but I think you're going to be okay on day one. Questions? Awesome. All right. Let me unlock day one for you in a second.